semester. Here we're live Mondays through Thursdays, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock here on 91.7 FM, The Edge, WSUW Whitewater. Like I said, my name is Sam. You might have heard me last semester on the radio on Mondays with Drew Best and Nolan Copy. Those guys are going to be hosting the Wednesday show and Thursday show, respectively, if my brain functions properly. I remember that properly. But those guys will be hosting later in the week. The Monday show is now mine to do, and I want to give a quick thanks to Drew, Nolan, and Chris, our other hosts, for giving me this opportunity to be able to do this. I want to apologize really quick. My voice is gone. I was at a tournament this weekend. I'm on the bowling team here at Whitewater, and it was the last conference tournament of the year. We had a nice bracket going on, and things got really hectic, a lot of cheering, a lot of shouting. We swept conference, though, so take our wins where we can take them. But today, I'm joined alongside Evan, Alyssa, and I am so sorry. I don't remember your name already.
It's all right. It's Ryan.
Ryan. Evan, Alyssa, and Ryan. So, guys, we're going to break the ice here really quick. I want us to kind of go into, give us your name, where you're from, what year in school you are, favorite teams growing up, and favorite players. And, Ryan, we'll start with you. Go for it, pal.
So, yeah, my name is Ryan Hoke. I'm from Union Grove, Wisconsin, which, if anyone knows where that's from, that's insane. But I'm a freshman. My major right now is broadcasting and journalism, and my favorite sports growing up were basketball, baseball, football, and tennis. And my favorite athlete growing up, well, I had a few. I mean, for basketball, I was a big Larry Bird fan. My dad got me on him pretty well. And also because of my dad, I'm a big Brett Favre fan. I love Brett Favre, the gunslinger. He's always been my favorite. So, yeah, that's my little intro there.
Brett Favre, definitely a good quarterback to become a fanboy behind.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely love that, and it's awesome that the Packers are, about 30 straight years of Hall of Fame quarterback play, and who knows what happens this next year, and maybe we even touch on that a little bit today. So, yeah. Alyssa, you're up. Give us your stuff.
Well, hi, I'm Alyssa. I'm from the Pleasant Prairie, Kenosha area. I'm a sophomore. My major is journalism. Now, my favorite sports, I'm like the big three person, basketball, football, baseball. Now, I absolutely love basketball. I watch it pretty much every single day. Now, I have a lot of favorite teams, but because I'm from Wisconsin, I am like the Bucks, Packers, Brewers.
Of course. Yes, for sure.
So my favorite Packer, I would say, is Jordy Nelson. I miss him a lot. It's really sad he retired. For baseball, now I found this out today, but my favorite Brewer was, what's his name? The mayor of Ding Dong City.
Travis Shaw.
Travis Shaw. He was my favorite Brewer. I loved him. And then I found out that he retired like last month, and I was so sad.
Man, yeah, Travis Shaw retiring, a little bit of a shame there. But, is what it is. Players get old, players start to decline, and there things go. Quick question for you, Alyssa. I'm from Kenosha. Where'd you go to high school?
Harborside Academy.
Harborside. Okay. Where would you have gone if you went to Bradford Indian Trail, Tremper?
I would have went to I live right by Tremper, like 5.
Tremper.
I'm like 5.
Not a fan.
I'm like 5-6 minutes away from Tremper.
Yeah, I went to Bradford. So I'll lead in then with that. My name's Sam. Like I said about 4 times earlier, I'm from Kenosha, Wisconsin. So kind of around both you guys.
I was gonna say, so you guys both know where I'm from.
Yeah, Union Grove is right up the road.
Oh my God.
Not too far away. Right out KR out to Highway 45, and you're there.
Yeah, my uncle, he lives in Union Grove.
I probably deliver pizzas.
Yeah, Union Grove, not too far from us. I'm from Kenosha. I'm a junior, and I'm a journalism major, electronic media minor, and I have declared a certificate in our brand new sports communication certificate program here at Whitewater. We actually just launched a scholarship award this year, too, after Kevin Blackistone, who was just on campus the other day for a couple days last week, visiting and doing some programs like that. But anyway, before I get off on a tangent here, favorite teams growing up, Packers, Bucks, Brewers, you name it. I'm from the state, you got to root for the teams. But I also loved the Jacksonville Jaguars from a very young age. And the very exact play I remember saying, this is my team, is the David Gerard bomb to the end zone against the Texans, last play of the game. Yes. Swatted up, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't Cecil Shorts. He wasn't there yet. I forgot who it was, but a receiver comes down with it and just dives into the end zone. So that kind of sparked my Jaguars fandom. But I think my favorite player of all time, and it sounds weird, but Mark Reynolds, he's a career journeyman first baseman in the MLB, crossed with the Brewers for a couple of years. Love that man. Since the day he debuted in '07 with the Diamondbacks, I've always loved him. Very high strikeouts, but he hits home runs. You know, that's the type of hitter you want to be in, especially today's game, right? And we might even get into that a little bit later today, too. Evan, we'll go to you.
Yes, so my name is Evan Crispin. I'm a sophomore here. My major is journalism. My favorite sports as of right now, as we're getting closer to March, college basketball, definitely a big hit for me right now, and college football, big college sports lover. And favorite teams, Badgers, Bucks, Packers, you name it, Wisconsin fan, but I am a fan of the Boston Bruins out of the NHL.
Okay.
I've always been a fan. Doing pretty well this year, I've heard.
Yeah.
And then my favorite player growing up, a little bit of speculation on him right now. We'll see where he goes, but Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, yes, and the last 4 off seasons have been all about that man. And yet, 3 of the last 4 have ended the same with him staying in Green Bay, and that included a new contract. So who knows where that goes this year.
This should be a reality show, you know?
It really should be. There should be an off-season game show where you can place down bets in Vegas or something like that, too. Kind of do like a big crossover between Hollywood and the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Get things going, you know, and see where that goes. But speaking of seeing where that goes, and we're going to tie right into the NFL. So this year's NFL, the NFL playoffs just ended. We saw a lot of things happen, a lot of interesting things. Like, who would have thought Miami would have taken the lead against the Buffalo Bills late in the game in Buffalo, opening round, a team that a lot of people saw as their Super Bowl favorites, and they couldn't do anything. They almost came back to win. They had the lead at one point. Buffalo seemed like they were just playing. They weren't themselves, right? And we saw other lines too, like the Chargers blowing a 27-0 lead. What's happening there? We're going to go to Alyssa first here. Alyssa, give us a storyline from these NFL playoffs that you found really interesting, or something that you want to share about one of these teams that needs some more attention.
Okay, going into the playoffs, so this is funny. So going into the playoffs, as soon as the Packers got out, I told my family, I said, now that the Packers are out, we need to all pick someone to win, to go to the Super Bowl. So I picked the Chiefs because that's my second favorite team in the NFL. My sister picked the Bengals because she loves Joe Burrow, no surprise. I think my dad picked the Eagles and my mom picked Buffalo. Or, no, she picked Kansas City because she's obsessed with Patrick Mahomes. Now, personally, I do want the Chiefs to win because I love them, but personally, I didn't really think that some of these teams would make it that far. Like, by week 5, 6, I was like, okay, the Eagles, they're gonna make it to the Super Bowl. Like, they're 5, 6, 7-0. They can do it. I wouldn't be surprised if they win. But there were a lot of people that left that I was really sad about. Like, Tyreek Hill left. I was really sad about that. I kind of liked watching him. And, just things like that, I was like, the NFL, it's going to be very different this year. With people leaving, with the whole Aaron Rodgers issue, the NFL was very different for me this year, especially with Tom Brady retiring, which at this point I do think is real. I don't know, but I hope it is.
For sure, yeah. And I want to tie into that Aaron Rodgers thing, especially, who'd have thought, obviously with Devontae Adams leaving the Green Bay Packers, getting sent over to the Raiders in exchange for a couple picks, you would have thought that the Packers would have turned off the Jets a little bit, and they were 4-8 at one point in the year and nearly made it into the playoffs as a 7 seed. It was a contest between them, the Lions, and the Seahawks to see who was going to get beaten to smithereens by the 49ers. So in the end, what's really the point? But to his credit, though, a lot of those young receivers that came in to replace Devontae Adams, you got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and everyone talks up Samori Toure. Samori Toure is a guy to watch next year especially, but Aaron Rodgers does what Aaron Rodgers does and develops young talent. If you remember, Devontae Adams wasn't that good. when he
No,
started.
was terrible, right?
He wasn't that good at all. And we've seen what Aaron Rodgers has been able to do this season, where they won 4 out of the last 5, and they were in it to win it until the very last second of the regular season. And we knew it was kind of coming at some point, but who knows now? Some teams are looking at Aaron Rodgers and saying this is a guy that we can still build a franchise around and really get the most out of our young talent right away. Ryan, let's go to you. What do you got?
Listen, if I'm the Packers, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I want to trade Aaron Rodgers right now because let me tell you why. We can still get things for him, and it's never that far from where it could have been. I mean, I remember last year and year before when we were in this whole little Cinderella story, of course, we're trying to get him back. He would, do the little roller coaster of emotions, of course, where we're all just sitting there thinking he's going to go to a different team and he comes back. But this year I think it's different because of the fact that those years they had actual, value to him. He had more value to him back then, but I think now he has, a little less. But there's still teams out there that will fall for that trap and give us more for him. And I think that might be the Jets or the Raiders. I'm hoping at least. And, like you said earlier about Devontae Adams, his confidence grew along with Rodgers. And I think I see the same thing in Christian Watson, honestly. I mean, I see him developing a lot better as a player and everything. And, I mean, to start out with that horrifying drop from Rodgers in the beginning of the season and to end off with being a Rookie of the Year candidate, he's come a long way.
For sure. And do you think that even without Aaron Rodgers at the helm in Green Bay next year, as a possibility, right? We don't know for sure yet, but as a possibility, do you think that Jordan Love or whoever they decide to put in at quarterback can still continue to get guys like Christian Watson the ball to see them blossom, to make sure that it's not a fluke that they're this good?
I'll tell you what. There was one game there where Love came in for Rodgers, and he threw a nice little slant pass to Watson where he then took it up the field for a touchdown. So my answer to that is I do believe that Watson will be a good player no matter what. He has a speed, and he loves to be a playmaker. I could see that with him already. With Love being the guy, I don't agree with that, honestly. I don't think so, honestly, because he's been behind Rodgers, of course, for the last few years, but I don't want to say it like it's over with him, but, we haven't seen enough, obviously. The thing is that me personally, I don't think he's the guy. I just don't see anything out of him, really. I mean, he's efficient, I think, really.
Mm-hmm.
He could definitely be an efficient player, getting us 8 wins. But I don't see him being a superstar with us.
No, definitely. And you can definitely look around at other quarterbacks in the league. But the problem is now, if you're going to trade Aaron Rodgers, how can you trade Jordan Love with no other quarterback on the roster? It's a tough thing to tango with. And not only that, there's not a ton of quarterbacks on the market. Mm-hmm. It's really free agent speaking, it's really Lamar Jackson and Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not great because you're not going to end up with one of those two guys because of how much they're asking for and how they can provide a lot. I don't think Derek Carr is a bad quarterback. I think he was in a bad situation last year with Josh McDaniels. And Lamar Jackson, who is a superstar level talent, didn't play up to it this past year, part because of injuries and part because he just didn't play that good. And especially after the first 3-4 weeks of the season, it's going to be tough to try and find another quarterback if you try and make a trade. You got anything else with Love?
Well, I mean, the thing is that I've heard some great ideas about what to do with him, honestly, and my favorite one is that to let him get his development year, have him start the year. Let's get some more, highlights with him. Let's show people that there is some value in this guy, and then it's too early for the Packers to go into the draft and try to look for a quarterback, even though this would be a good year for it. But, every year there will be a quarterback that stands out to everyone. So, I mean, I think that they're going to have to get a year with him behind the ball, Love speaking. And I think they're going to have to try to figure out a way to maybe get him some leverage for for Love. But, I think at the end of the day, they're just going to need to get him out there, build up his highlight reel, and just let the other teams show what he's about, and then just start looking at that quarterback scouting report, for the next few years. I mean, there's got to be a lot of talent out there in the college realm.
Yes, for sure. It's not the deepest quarterback draft this year. It's very top-heavy, but we'll have to see where that goes. Evan, what do you got for me?
Yeah, so one headline I took away from the NFL playoffs, personally from me, is one word, which is superiority. Now, what I mean by that is Eagles, 1 seed, made it. Chiefs, one of the top seeds, made it. No, there were some minor upsets, yes, but the more superior teams showed themselves that they can make it to the Super Bowl, and that's what they did with the Chiefs and Eagles. One team that I think deserves praise, and Sam, you will agree with me on this, are the Jaguars.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Evan. Thank you.
And the reason why I say that is they came back from 27-0 to beat the Chargers. I think it was 27-0. Am I right on that?
Yes, you are correct.
But coming back from 27-0 just to defeat the Chargers, but then you go on and lose to the Chiefs. Okay, you lost to the Chiefs. Fine, they're a powerhouse in the NFL. But you came back from 27 points in the playoffs, and you went from third in the AFC South, or fourth. I don't think they were ever fourth because the Texans were fourth, but third in the AFC South to, I think, AFC South champions.
Yep.
That's a Cinderella story, am I right?
I think so.
It is 100% a Cinderella story. And let me tell you what, I have the receipts. They are in my camera roll. You can ask anybody who's watched or listened to this show. I called it from week 3 that this was going to happen. Look back through the show logs. The receipts are up on UWW TV's live stream tab. They are there. Evan, thank you for bringing that up. They deserve a lot more praise than they're getting, and they don't deserve the flack that they're getting for losing to the Chiefs.
No way.
Anything you got on that? What happened in that Chiefs game? What did you see?
To be honest, I didn't watch much of it, but coming from me, it's the Chiefs. I'm sorry to say, Sam. Like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, like best dynamic duo in my opinion in the NFL right now. But it's tough to beat a team that's been a powerhouse for so long. And to go back to my previous statement, I think one team that should receive shame for the playoffs, and you guys might disagree with me on this, but I think it's the Vikings. They came in as a 3 seed. They lost to the Giants, who they just beat on a field goal not too long ago, and that field goal was beyond midfield. And they go on to lose to the Giants at home when they were favored to win. I think that's like a pretty kind of shameful story for Vikings fans. I bet they're kind of kicking themselves because they were expected to win, but yeah.
And I think the Vikings are one of the first teams, if not the first team, to make it to the playoffs, especially with that record and have a negative point differential. I mean, what does that say about your team? You were close with everybody, and you never really blew out any other team. You never asserted your dominance. You had guys on this team like Kirk Cousins, who doesn't really get enough credit for how good he plays. He's not a bad quarterback. I'd argue that he's top half in the league, for sure. I'd put that, top 16 easily. But you could make the case, and I won't do it, partly because of my bias towards the Green Bay Packers, but you could make the argument that he's top 10 in the league. He plays very good every year. Aaron Rodgers won MVP a couple seasons ago. Kirk Cousins played very scarily similar to Aaron Rodgers that season. But this year, you didn't see that out of this team. You didn't see the gel. You didn't see this team come together to play as one. Alyssa, what else you got? Any other teams? Like, what did you see out of the Vikings? What did you think of their season?
I mean, the Vikings are a good team. I know when we played them, I told my parents, I said, yeah, we're playing the Vikings. There's a really good chance that we're going to lose. Like, when it comes to teams like the Vikings, yeah, like just really good teams, I always say, like, we're most likely going to lose. Like, I hope we win, but there is a very good chance that we will lose. Like, just with the team we have right now, we have a lot of banged-up players that I don't think are going to come back. So, yeah, there would be a really good chance that we would lose to teams like the Vikings.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is that, well, I think we went 1-1 against them this year, correct? The Green Bay Packers. Yeah, so we went 1-1, and that seems to happen every year, that we usually split with the Vikings, sweep the Bears, and mostly split with the Lions. They always seem to get us in Detroit.
We don't
This
even
year was
think about the
flip-flop.
Lions.
Yeah, well, I mean, the NFC North's going to start running through Detroit pretty soon.
Now, yeah, but in the past, I'm
In the
saying,
past, it's been
like,
just a push-off,
there was
a
really a
throwaway.
3-team division at one point.
Correct. And the thing with the Vikings, though, is that this year specifically, like in previous years, I get totally what you're saying, Alyssa, because the Vikings have not been a bad team historically, at least in recent history. But this year just felt different. This year, I attended the Week 17 game myself against the Vikings. It was a 3:25 kickoff on CBS. And I was sitting in the end zone that Keyshawn Nixon caught that kickoff return and took it to the house. And the Red Sea parted. And I was like, oh, my God, this guy's gone. But there was never a moment in that game, even on the first drive, where I felt that this game was in jeopardy. This Vikings team just didn't play all that good this year. Brian, what you got?
I mean, I completely agree with you on that. The whole thing with the Vikings was that I remember during Week 11, I believe it was I saw a stat sheet on Instagram that said that if the Vikings were to not be winning games by just one score, they would have been 1-10. And by that time, they were maybe 9-2 right around that time, about something like that. But they were good, And the thing is that you got a great offense with, you got countless targets. The addition of T.J. Hawkinson just skyrocketed them. Justin Jefferson, that 33-point comeback against the Colts was legendary, biggest one in history. And I just think in the end, it's a season of disappointment is how you can look at it. This is a team that really should have gotten it together. I feel like it was more of a nerve-driven team in a way. They got nervous at the worst moments that they shouldn't have, and they paid for it. They paid for it in the end.
For sure. And, I want to tie your mention to T.J. Hawkinson getting traded into our next topic with breaking news last night from Shams Charania of The Athletic. Kyrie Irving on the move from the Brooklyn Nets to the Dallas Mavericks. And who would have thought, you're hearing all year that, Kyrie might want out. He's on the last year of his deal. He took the player option to stay in Brooklyn for an extra year. He's on the last year of his contract. Who knows where he's going to go? Odds are if Brooklyn isn't competing for some reason because they have Kyrie and Kevin Durant, he might get moved. And now we're hearing Kevin Durant rumors too. So Brooklyn might be blowing up the operation. And the first piece to go is Kyrie Irving alongside teammate Markieff Morris getting traded to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for point guard Spencer Dinwiddie, power forward Dorian Finney-Smith, a 2029 first-round pick, and 2 future seconds. As of right now, there's no year attached to them that's been released. But what is up with this trade? And I know, Alyssa, you were saying this pre-show that this trade just doesn't look right. There's something wrong about this trade. The Mavs are getting 2 players, a point guard and a power forward. The Nets are getting a point guard and a power forward in return. One of them, a former Brooklyn Net, who nearly made an all-star team as a Brooklyn Net, and 3 future picks. Alyssa, give me your thoughts on this trade. First off, before you give me your thoughts, who won the trade in your eyes?
Kyrie Irving, I just didn't fully get it. Here's the thing. I did not like this trade at all. I thought it was kind of dumb. Kyrie Irving, he's played for so many teams. He's the type of player that's going to be on all the different teams and then retire. And you can say he was on every single team here. Well, no. I just think it's so odd. He's going from team to team. He's basically saying, I was on this team, I didn't like it, so I want to be traded to a different team, and then just keep doing that until he likes it. Another thing, I don't like who we trade it for. Personally, I like Spencer Dinwiddie. I like watching him play for Dallas. It's going to be so different now. When you watch him, you're going to be like, oh, Spencer Dinwiddie. But he's playing for a different team now. You're not actually going to see him play for the Mavericks, and that's kind of disappointing. I always look forward when I watch the Mavericks to see him, they just gave up a lot for Kyrie Irving, who I bet isn't even going to stay there for very long. He's the type of player, he's going to be there temporarily. My guess is he's not going to be there for very long, maybe like half a season to the end of the season. He's not going to be there for like a season or two. He's just going to be there temporarily.
And that's a great call that right at the end that you just made, Alyssa. And I want to go back to Spencer Dinwiddie really quick. And I appreciate you giving some fangirl love to Spencer Dinwiddie, because this year he's averaging 17 points per game, almost 18, which is the second highest mark in his career as of right now, shooting over 40% from the three-point line, which is a career high, and 45.5% field goals total, which is a career high for him. So Spencer Dinwiddie on a much lower contract, getting moved back to Brooklyn for roughly the same production as Kyrie Irving, and Dinwiddie doesn't play in as many minutes. Dinwiddie had like a mix of starting and coming off the bench in the past. This year, a little bit more starting role, kind of as like the number one option outside of Luka, because Jalen Brunson is now in New York. And Evan, I want you to give me your thoughts here on this. What do you think of the return? Even with Dinwiddie still, but what do you think of the return outside of Spencer Dinwiddie? Like, is this trade really worth it for Brooklyn?
I would say no, because I definitely think the Mavericks benefited. Now, you may call me crazy, but Kyrie essentially building block at Brooklyn. He's gone. They just have Durant and a couple other players to build around. You now have Kyrie, Luka, and Tim Hardaway in Dallas. That's the new big three.
Tim Hardaway's been playing his butt off this year, too. He's been having quite the season, too.
Yes, he has. And does Kyrie stay long? I don't know. Alyssa kind of mentioned this, but I based it off, if Dallas goes to the playoffs, which they likely will, and I think Brooklyn will make the play-in tournament as well, I think if Dallas goes deep, Kyrie stays. If they don't, he leaves. Because like Alyssa said, he's kind of making these rounds like, oh, I don't like this team, I want to be on this team. Like, that's like Kyrie, like, leaving the Nets is like Giannis leaving the Bucks. Like, knock on wood, let's hope that not happens. But I think the Mavericks got the better out of this trade, because, like, I personally, in my opinion, I think the culture in Brooklyn is toxic. Like, they think they're above everyone. Dallas definitely doesn't think like that. They're one of these teams that are, like, hanging around saying, okay, let's just take a bit game by game. Like, let's do this and that. But, like, Brooklyn just, I could have seen it coming, like, before the news was made yesterday.
And it's interesting you bring that up at the very end, because Mark Cuban has prided his organization off of being, like, draft grown and using these guys, these blue collar players, really not relying on major superstar talent, building a super team. Like, we've just exited the super team era. Now we're in the super twos, and the super two now is Luka and Kyrie Irving. And a lot of Mavs fans I've seen on Twitter especially have been calling and begging Mark Cuban for help. And I saw this one today where a guy sent, I want to say it was like a 500 or 600 word Instagram direct message to Mark Cuban, who saw the message and then traded for Kyrie Irving immediately after. This fan base was begging for Luka Doncic to get help. And the main reason why is because Dallas loses by a lot and wins by a very small margin. They have a negative point differential this year. They're a lot like the Minnesota Vikings of the NBA. And Kyrie's closeout ability is certainly going to help them stay in this game.
Well, let me tell you something about this trade, though, I think, is that I do think it's, in the end, a fair trade, because the Nets are getting rid of their locker room situation, and, you know, they don't want to deal with that anymore. I mean, it's a very big part of basketball, that the chemistry is what leads to championships. And, you know, I think getting him to the Mavericks is a fine deal, and I think what they're getting back is even great, actually. I mean, I seriously think they benefit from it if Spencer Dinwiddie's playing the same way pretty much that he was in Dallas and is playing just as well. I think there's nothing really to lose from it. The thing I do wonder is how Luka Doncic is going to be affected by this, because the thing I'm wondering is that what you don't want is this to turn into like a Russell Westbrook situation where it's like the reverse of the Midas touch, where everything he touches turns into trash. And so that's just the whole thing I'm thinking of here is that because Kyrie Irving in the past, he has done this before where he's gone from the Cavs to the Celtics. Everyone was expecting the Celtics to do great. Didn't happen. He went from the Celtics to the Nets. Didn't happen. So I'm just assuming that hopefully it goes well out there. But my biggest thing is how Luka's going to play after this.
And correct. And I want to bring up 2 usage rates here. Kyrie Irving's is 0.1%, so he's at 29.9% this year usage rate. Luka Doncic, 35.4%. These are 2 very ball-dominant players that are now going to be playing in the same scheme, the same starting lineup for a playoff contender, a team that made the Western Conference Finals last year, gave it a good run. They got their help now, but Kyrie is now on the wrong side of 30, and he's missed 195 games in the last 4 seasons with the Brooklyn Nets. That number actually, my apologies. That number's a little off. I accounted for this whole year being done. So it's probably closer to like 160, 150. But that's besides the point. He's missed about 150 games as a Brooklyn Net for various reasons, right? Doesn't matter the reason. He's started in every game he's played for them. He has missed so many games. And Alyssa, what do you think? Do you think that this usage rate with Kyrie, begging for the ball all the time, needing to be the primary ball handler and scorer, and now with his issues and actually being able to play games, is this a good look for the Mavericks going forward?
No, see, if you're hurt, that's bad. You don't want to be hurt for almost every single game because technically you're not going to get MVP that way if that's what you're going for. Because my dad told me they don't count, their hurt stuff, so... No. That's not going to count, but, Kyrie Irving, he's a good ball handler and everything. That's cool, but it's going to be very interesting to see how he fits in with the Net or whatever team he's going to, the Nets. I just don't know.
Or Dallas, the Mavericks.
Wherever he's going.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to see, what he'll do there.
Is Kyrie still under that contract clause with the COVID one where he cannot play back-to-back games? Or something like that, or what?
I am unsure of that, and I think
games or something like that. I forgot.
I think that was just New York, though.
Okay.
I think that's just the state of New York that was like that, and that even ties into the missing 150 plus games. We're just gonna rock with 150. Let's just assume.
Yeah, well,
right?
That's a safe bet. I think,
yeah,
honestly.
just to be safe, 150. 195 was wrong. Don't take my word for that. We'll say 150. Missing those games, I think that has something to do with it. But now that he's in Dallas, where the rules on that are a little bit more relaxed, and by a little, I mean a lot more relaxed, we'll see him playing in a lot more games. The problem, though, is that he is on the wrong side of 30 now, and he relies on being very agile and a very smooth ball handler, making quick cuts left and right for 38 minutes a game, roughly. And your knees are going to take a toll. So as long as he's still training properly, which I'd assume he is, he's a professional athlete, top of his game. But the wrong side of 30, 30 years. They talk about being 40 years old is over the hill for the average layman. But 30 for a professional athlete, especially in a very fast-paced sport like basketball, 30 is over the hill. And he is now on the wrong side of 30, and he's begging for a lot of money.
Yeah, he is. You got that right, Sam. And I was just thinking about this with the whole culture thing and the whole locker room situation, like Ryan mentioned, in Brooklyn. For my second team in the NBA, I would choose Dallas right now, besides Milwaukee, obviously, because Wisconsin sports fan, but that's besides the point. I feel like Kyrie could possibly destroy that culture there too. I mean, he's a culture destroyer. Everywhere he goes, just what Ryan said, the Midas touch. I don't want to see the Dallas Mavericks go down the drain. I don't think anyone does. They're not a hated team in the NBA. Maybe by some, but not by me. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, just the nearby rivals, Houston and San Antonio. But even so, those teams are bad this year. Dallas is really asserting themselves as the team to beat in the state of Texas. And I just want to dive into we'll dive in here a little bit more playoffs-wise. And earlier in the year, this past semester, me, Drew, and Nolan, our old crew, we did a little bit of playoff predicting where we chose, like we went through schedules and looked at games and decided on who our, top 10 teams were in each conference, the play-in teams 7 through 10, and then the playoff teams 1 through 6, and then went from there and played every matchup and decided, hey, which team is going to beat this. And now we're seeing Dallas, who us three all had at least being in the second round for sure, adding a superstar talent like Kyrie Irving to their roster. I mean, obviously right at the front, like just on face level, when you add a guy with his numbers playing point guard now instead of Spencer Dinwiddie, that's instantaneous improvement, statistically speaking. From a numerical standpoint, that is 100% improvement. Then you get into the non-tangibles, and that's an area I love to focus on, is the non-tangible aspect of sports. You can't quantify locker room culture. You can't quantify being a locker room cancer. You can't put that into numbers. Kyrie Irving is definitely top in the league at being just a bad clubhouse guy. And in a culture like the Dallas Mavericks, where they run through their superstar, Luka Doncic, and everyone else plays their part, they're all role players in the end, and Luka's the star of the show. Now you're adding 2 Chiefs to the tribe. What happens here?
Well, I think, honestly, that in order for Kyrie to find success with the Mavericks, he needs to know how to do his job, and he needs to stick with his role. He needs to, suck it up at the end of the day and just live with himself, and just be like, hey, I can do this. I'm still a top-tier point guard. If I can't show that me, myself, is an MVP candidate, I can at least help a team win a championship still, and that's just as much value at the end of the day.
For sure.
I think that.
For sure. So now, really quick, all 4 of us here, just really quick, go through your Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals matchups, and then your Finals matchup and who gets crowned as champion after this trade. So before it, you'd expect the Nuggets and the, insert other Western Conference team here, and then in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks, Celtics, or whatnot. But after this trade, and now speculating some other moves that might happen before Thursday's trade deadline, who do you guys have as your Western Conference, Eastern Conference Finals picks?
So for me, at least, for Western Conference, I would definitely say the Nuggets are top runner right now. And along with, I would think the Suns.
It's a tight conference.
It is. It very much is right now. It's really tough to tell. And then I think the Nuggets advance out of that. They're a really, really good team this year. Again, I don't watch them as much, but I've heard very, very good stats about them. In the Eastern Conference, at least, I would just say the usual, what we've seen, Bucks Celtics the past however many years. To be honest, I don't see the Bucks advancing out of that. They're okay this year, but Celtics. How good are they this year?
They're number 1.
They took their championship aspiration roster last year,
right?
Built upon it, are in the running for Kevin Durant in case there is a Kevin Durant trade, and are the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. That is a complete fair statement to say, but who do you have winning? Nuggets, Celtics. And in how many games?
I hate to be this guy, but I despise the Celtics, but I do see the Celtics winning. And I'd say 5 games. 5
games. I think that one is definitely that one's definitely out there because I'd put them at least 6. That's definitely a tight series, but 5 is possible. 5 is possible, especially if they get Kevin Durant.
Right.
I mean, Jokic can't guard everybody.
Right.
Jamal Murray hasn't been the same since the COVID bubble when he became one of the best basketball players on earth. So that's definitely there. I think that it's there even more if they add to their team. I'd give it 6, though, for sure. So I'm on the same page with you that the Celtics win. I think it's more 6. But Kevin Durant, he might be there.
He's looming.
He might be there. Alyssa, what you got?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so I'm just gonna mention really fast my favorite teams: the NBA, Bucks, Celtics, Heat, Warriors, Nuggets. I love those teams.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other funny thing, for Christmas, my dad got me a Celtics sweatshirt and a Warriors sweatshirt, and those were the two teams that ended up in the finals.
Mhm. And I see you're wearing a Bucks sweatshirt right now, so what does that tell me? Are they making it?
I don't know. Well, it's funny because then I made an NBA bracket, and I only had a few errors in there because I said the Warriors were gonna win, and they did. But here's the thing. This is my little theory. So, if the Bucks end up playing the Celtics again in the playoffs this year, the Bucks will win. Because I've noticed it's like this little pattern. One year they played each other, the Bucks won. The next year they played each other again, the Celtics won. So that means this year the Bucks will win again if they play them. That happened with other teams too. I've noticed it's just a pattern. If they play each other, it just goes back and forth.
For sure.
So the Celtics are really good this year. They are number one in the Eastern Conference. So I would like to see the Celtics and Heat play each other. I would really love to see that. Or the Nuggets and Dallas play each other. That would be another fun one to see. I do not have a winner yet. I really have to think about that.
Well, for sure. But if you think in a head-to-head matchup right now between those two teams, who would it be? Just right in one game, 48 minutes, starts right now. Who wins that game?
I want to say Celtics for sure.
Okay. That's fair. So, I mean, we got half the team saying Celtics. You know, they're a powerhouse team, and it makes sense. They're one game up on the Bucks right now with a better conference record, better road record too, which matters a lot in the playoffs. You know, it usually comes down in a series. It comes down to who wins a game on the road, and especially in the Bucks Suns finals a couple of years ago, the Bucks won a game in Phoenix. They won the finals. Ryan, what you got?
Well, let me tell you about my matchup. So I guess for the Western Conference Finals, I'm looking more towards, of course, the Nuggets. I mean, the Nuggets are just looking unstoppable. I think Nikola Jokic is going to get his third MVP in a row here, which is crazy. But I guess gotta say, I'm looking more at the Kings a little bit too and stuff like that. I feel like that's very much not talked about anymore, really.
Correct.
Because, everyone's so used to the Kings being non-existent other than for DeMarcus Cousins there a little bit, but this season they're doing great. The best offense in the league right now, arguably, maybe. They got the Aaron Fox, they got Sabonis, he's doing great too. And I think, though, that it's going to be Nuggets win over the Kings. I'm going to say in 6 games. And it's going to be a tight one because, you know what, that's just going to be a good series, I think. And I'm going to have to say for my Eastern Conference picks, I'm going to say Cavs, maybe, because the Cavs are pretty, they're underdogs, I think. That's more of a sleeper pick. My realistic pick is, honestly, Bucks Celtics, I think, because, that's just 2 easy ones. But if I had an underdog pick, I'm going to shout out my buddy Chris for this one because me and him were talking about this one day. He said the Cavs right now are going to surprise people. He said they're going to turn heads. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get on this kid's back right here. He's right, I think, because I'm watching the game. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is just, one of a kind. He knows how to put a team on his back. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a sleeper of them versus, either the Bucks or the Celtics. But just to be honest here, I'm going to say I believe that the Celtics will beat the Bucks in the finals. And it's going to be something like an injury, too, in there, I feel like. I just know that's going to be the case.
So Nuggets taking out the West and Celtics taking out the East. Who do you got in the end?
Well, in the end, I'm just going to say I feel like the Celtics. I really feel like the Celtics in the end. I mean, when it gets to around championship time, the Celtics had the unfortunate event of playing the Warriors last year, and the Warriors having just as much of an elite fan base as the Celtics do. I mean, you hear any player, they don't want to go into the Boston Garden and play in a playoff game. And, I just think that's where it's going to get to. And I got to say the Celtics will win in the end.
So I'm going to piggyback off you guys a little bit. I think the Eastern Conference Finals will be the Bucks. The Bucks will be in it. but Cleveland's going to also make it. I'm going to take the underdog Cleveland Cavaliers.
I like
and
that.
I think Donovan Mitchell is finally in a scene where he is the guy and has a great supporting cast with Darius Garland playing the little 1-2 combo there. They're both fairly good on defense and both very, very good scorers and very athletic ball handlers. I like where that team's direction is headed. I saw something, though, where Kevin Love has been taken out of the rotation, which upsets me a little bit because it's starting like the end of an era with guys we watched growing up in the NBA, and now like Kevin Love was on like different fast food commercials and car commercials and stuff like that, and now he's been rendered irrelevant because time is a disease we all die from someday.
Oh, yeah.
So aging, one heck of a thing. But I'm going to take Bucks Cavs, in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I'm going to take the Bucks over the Cavaliers. Matchup-wise, they match up a lot better against the Cavs.
I like that.
And it takes a lot of guys to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo. In the West, based on how the standings are today, you might want to call me crazy here, but I'm going to put the Kings in the Western Conference Finals, and I'm going to put the Memphis Grizzlies up there too.
Ja Morant.
I think the Grizzlies turn things around. They go from the 2 to the 1. The Kings stay around like the 6-7 range. Eventually they'll fall down. They'll come back to earth. It's a very tight conference. I see right now from 13th seed, if you want to call it the seed, to the 3 seed, from the Lakers to the Kings, is separated by 5 games.
Wow.
So there's a lot of season left with a 5-game separation between the 3 seed and the 13 seed in the West. But I'm going to put the Kings and Grizzlies in there. I got Bucks Grizzlies finals. I got the Bucks winning it. I like the small market team feel, especially in like a championship aspect. I feel like the fan bases are a lot more tied to those teams. So I'm going to take 2 smaller markets. But just real quick before we go on to our final topic, the Sacramento Kings, the last time they were in the playoffs, the 05-06 season.
Oh, my God.
It's time. And they're playing like it's time. Speaking of championship aspirations, the World Series is not right around the corner. It's still about 8 months out. But baseball season is here 1 week from today. Pitchers and catchers report early this year because of the World Baseball Classic taking place in just a few weeks. So the rest of the league will be getting to training camp a week from this Thursday, but pitchers and catchers will be there on Monday next week. So, really quick, I just want to ask you guys, I created a tier list here of each of the teams in the MLB based on how much of a competitor they are. So I have the non-contenders for now. I put that in parentheses for now in case, they get on a hot streak early, become buyers at the trade deadline, make a run. The Boston Red Sox, Miami Marlins, Nationals, Royals, Twins, Tigers, Pirates, Reds, A's, Diamondbacks, Giants, Rockies. Those are all my non-contenders. I have bubble teams right now, so like dark horse contenders. These guys are good, but on paper, not good enough, but they could turn things around because of a few non-tangibles, right? The Angels, the Rangers, White Sox, Brewers, Rays, Cubs, and Orioles. Playoff teams, Padres, Dodgers, Mariners, Cardinals, Guardians, Blue Jays, and the teams best poised for a championship, the Yankees, Braves, Astros, Phillies, and Mets, with their near $500 million payroll. What do you guys think? Who are your top 5 teams poised right now for an MLB championship? Ryan, we'll go to you first.
I got to say, for me, it's usually an Astros appearance.
Mm-hmm.
They've just been there a lot lately, but I'm going to say for my top 5 teams, I'm going to put the Astros in there, of course. I want to throw in the Phillies, of course, too, and the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
That right there is my 3 trifecta of good luck against them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to throw in the Padres, too.
Okay.
Of course, I got to give some love to them. They got a really talented roster, I think. And, there's a team here with young talent, and I just feel like they can blossom any season here. It's The Blue Jays. I really think, any season here, these guys can just come alive and just, attack. They got a lot of star players there and stuff like that. And, I don't know what's going on with them now, but let's hope it's fine.
I'm a little shaky with the Blue Jays. And the reason why I'm a little shaky is because I feel like they're a regular season team. And we see this in other sports, like especially with the Vikings this year. The Vikings, Mavericks, and Blue Jays are all like the same team in 3 different leagues. There's a lot of regular season success, but lately not a lot of postseason. The Mavs are the exception out of those 3 because they made a nice Western Conference Finals run last season, and we'll see if that happens again. I'm not sure. And baseball is not as much of a team sport as those other 2, where individual guys can really carry a whole team. But this Blue Jays team just hasn't been able to do that. I think they're a playoff team for sure. I think they take second in that AL East every single season until Aaron Judge retires.
Oh, yeah.
And they ride it out as a playoff team. Alyssa, what do you have?
Well, right now I only have 2 down. I have the Phillies and the Rangers. However, I do think the Brewers and Cubs, they're iffy. Like they're not good, but not bad. Like I think the Brewers they're okay this season. Like we did get rid of some really good players, but we did get some okay players. So I think we'll have a pretty good season. The Cubs, I don't like the Cubs. I just know that they're like average.
Yep. Well, they added Dansby Swanson this offseason, and that's who I have as like an impact free agent signing for sure, is that Dansby Swanson. He's no schmuck. He's a good shortstop. He's a great shortstop, some would say. Slightly better offensively than the average shortstop in MLB, and that definitely is going to help this Cubs team. But do you think, Alyssa, that the Cubs could possibly make a run at a postseason spot this season?
I mean, probably. I don't really know a lot about them. My job as a Wisconsin fan is to not like them.
Fair. That is fair. You know what? That's something I can get behind. Evan, what do you got for me?
Like Ryan said, I will take top 3. Obviously, no one likes seeing Dodgers, Yankees, Astros. Same 3 every year, seems like.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like baseball. But
Yeah.
that's beyond me. But 2 surprised, actually, the 4 and 5 seed, respectively, for me, I guess. Mets and the Braves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, a dark horse that I see, Ryan, I see your tier list right now. You said the Marlins are a bubble team?
The Marlins I have as a non-contender.
Non-contender, sorry. That's my bad.
No, you're good.
So, do you remember when the Twins released Luis Arias to the Marlins?
Yes.
Now, the Marlins are statistically the worst team in baseball, offensively.
Yes.
You see them on TV, there's no one in the stands.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what's their average attendance? Like,
It's not as low as the Tampa Bay Rays.
or the Oakland A's.
Or Oakland.
Right.
But it's down there.
Right.
Can't
And
sell tickets again there.
And I think Luis Arias can help that. The Twins had a great hitter in Luis Arias. They're sending him to Miami, which is worst in the MLB in strikeouts. And Luis Arias does not strike out that often. He's a great hitter. And another team that's not going to make a postseason appearance, but could make some noise in the MLB, Texas Rangers. They're in a rebuild this year, and they added some good key additions for pitching. Jacob deGrom.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple others that I cannot remember off the top of my head right now. But Rangers are in a rebuild. They're going to be a team to watch in that AL West.
So you'd say Jacob deGrom probably the biggest impact signing this past offseason?
Along
Or at
with
least
Luis Arias. Yes.
Arias. I do like that Arias move. I was really hoping Milwaukee would put something together for him because the return from the Marlins wasn't that great. But really quick, you got Arias. I'm going to take an impact bat really quick, or an impact guy really quick, give a quick reason why, and then we'll go to Alyssa and Ryan really quick before we get into our final thoughts. I think that the biggest move this offseason could be, and some of you might not like this, could be Cody Bellinger to the Chicago Cubs. Don't doubt this guy. He has a chip on his shoulder. He realizes this might be the last contract he ever receives in Major League Baseball if he continues to struggle. He's playing in a hitter's park. The wind likes to blow out of Wrigley Field. It faces the northeast, and that's the exact way the wind likes to blow here. We live in Whitewater. People call it wind water. It's windy in this area. Chicago's the windy city. He knows if he can't hit there, he can't hit anywhere. There's a chip on his shoulder. I think we're going to see like 30, 35 homers from Bellinger this year. Alyssa, who do you got and one reason why? I think I know who it's going to be, but I want to hear.
For like baseball?
Yes.
Like, what was the biggest move?
Yeah, like an impact signing. I know you had the Rangers in your World Series, and they got the best pitcher in baseball.
Didn't they like just sign some too?
I'm not sure, but I know they got DeGrom from the Mets.
I mean, I feel like they'll have a good season. I don't really know anyone on that team, but like from what they did, I think they'll do pretty good this season.
That's fair. That's fair, Ryan.
Well, let me say, I think the JV trade to the Mets was insane because, it's like him leaving the Astros like that is, it's pretty great. And he's going back to be teammates with Max Scherzer once again, correct?
Yep.
I mean, like, that's going to be some big stuff for the
Detroit
Mets fans.
reunion.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And remember last time they were, in Detroit, I mean, of course, they had Miguel Cabrera helping him out and get him to the postseason, even the World Series. But I think the Mets could probably even find their way into there, into the World Series, just off their pitching. I mean, they almost, with DeGrom, they were unstoppable. If they could have just hit some more balls in play, they would have been even more unstoppable. They would have won the World Series, probably, of course, and if he was healthy. But now you got two of those guys. And I think it's going to be electric. They're going to be a 1-2 punch once again, even though they're getting old. Those pitchers, they have some gas in the tank always, they go for a long time.
Exactly. And with that, we are going to wrap up the first Hawk Talk of the second semester. Thank you all for listening and watching today. We're going to get our final thoughts in order really quick. Got a few seconds here. Evan, final thoughts.
Yes, so today's my birthday, so
Happy birthday!
20th to me. Thank you. Sam,
Awesome.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, dude.
I just want to shout out the tennis team for beating Carleton 5-4 yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Great win for them as they still compete in their indoor season because we have some white precipitation on the ground still here in Whitewater. And I just want to shout out a couple of big games this Wednesday for our hoops teams in Whitewater. Women are away at Oshkosh with the 1 seed on the line. UW Stout, a Cinderella team this year, is tied with us right now in the women's division. And then men are at home. That theme is going to be Whiteout versus Oshkosh. Biggest game of the year. Pop out. That's all for me.
Alyssa.
For me, the Bucks are on tonight at 9, and Giannis got Player of the Week again, so I was excited about that.
Alrighty. Yeah, they do play tonight. I forget who they play against. Who do they play against?
They play the Trailblazers.
The Trailblazers, that is correct. I think I'm going to see a nice Bucks win tonight. Ryan.
Let me just say, I want to say thank you to all the great people who are listening today, of course. I hope everyone's having a great time and a great day, and I hope they like our thoughts here. But my final thoughts are that I am hungry. I cannot wait to go get some food after this. And Tom Brady retiring makes me a little sad, but I love the guy. Great player. 23 years. Thank you, Tom.
Absolutely. And my final thoughts here today are going to be I'm very excited to be the host of this show for 13 more Mondays throughout the entire semester. Once again, if you are a first-time listener or need a refresher, you can come listen to us here on 91.7 The Edge, WSUW Whitewater, Monday through Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central Time. You can also find the stream with video included if you want to see our beautiful faces on UWW-TV's YouTube page. Go onto the page, become a subscriber, and then listen through the live streams tab. And you can find all of our pre-recorded shows as well. Thanks for listening today. We're going to get back to some music here in just a second. I got my little thought here with a minute left. The Whitewater bowling team, a lot of people don't know, is one of the best in the country. We were number 9 ranked. We were ranked 9th coming into this weekend into our last conference event that followed with the conference tournament. The Whitewater varsity team, the Whitewater JV team, and the Whitewater women's team swept the Great Lakes Bowling Conference this weekend, which has some of the top talent around the Midwest. Kudos to the Whitewater bowling team. A little bit of a self plug there, but we're gonna get back into the music here in just a second. This one is called Deeper